Your name does not belong on this list. Claire Whitman held the passenger tablet against her chest and stared down at Monica Hayes as though Seat 1A had exposed a crime instead of a reservation. Monica looked at the green verification mark still glowing on the scanner in flight attendant Alyssa Reed's hand. My name is there, she said. You decided not to see it. The first-class cabin fell silent. Overhead bins clicked shut, cool air whispered through the vents, and several passengers turned toward the black woman in the charcoal suit. Within minutes, the people judging her would discover why she understood the airline's policies better than anyone aboard. Subscribe now for more stories where dignity stands firm against prejudice, because one ignored boarding pass was about to expose a secret buried far beyond this cabin. Claire lowered her voice without softening it. This seat is reserved for a premium passenger. I am the passenger assigned to it. Monica raised her phone, displaying Seat 1A beside a verified boarding code. Alyssa started to scan it again, but Claire blocked the device with one hand. That is unnecessary. Monica noticed the movement. So did Officer Daniel Foster, the younger of two airport police officers entering through the forward boarding door. His partner, Officer Grant Miller, walked ahead with the confidence of a man who believed the uniform had already settled the argument. Ma'am, gather your belongings, Grant said. We will sort this out at the gate. Monica remained seated, one hand resting on the cool leather armrest. You could sort it out here by scanning the ticket. Grant glanced at Claire instead of the phone. Airline management says there is a problem. Airline management has refused to verify the evidence. Daniel looked toward Alyssa's scanner. The green light remained steady. Her pass appears valid, he said quietly. Grant did not turn. We were called to handle a passenger issue, not audit their system. Monica studied him. Then what fact convinced you that I am the issue? A passenger across the aisle stopped pretending to read. Another lifted a phone toward the confrontation. Claire folded her arms. People who belong here do not create scenes. Monica looked around the cabin. Her voice had never risen. Her hands had never left the seat. I have not created anything, she said. I asked you to check your own records. 8 months earlier, Monica had quietly purchased controlling ownership of Sterling Sky Airlines after 27 black passengers reported being questioned, downgraded, or removed from premium seats despite valid reservations. Most employees had never seen her face. She had chosen to travel anonymously because policies revealed their truth when no executive was watching. Beneath the seat, inside her plain leather bag, rested a small steel wrench that had belonged to her father, Noah Hayes, a gifted airline mechanic denied promotion year after year. Grant pointed toward the aisle. Stand up now. Monica looked at his body camera, then at Alyssa's scanner. Before I move, preserve every recording and system entry connected to this seat. Claire gave a dismissive laugh. You are acting like you own the airline. Monica slowly unfastened her seat belt. No, she said, rising with quiet control. I am acting like every passenger deserves proof before punishment. Monica stepped into the aisle while Grant watched her with the satisfaction of someone who believed compliance had confirmed his judgment. Claire immediately turned toward the cabin and announced that the seating issue was being resolved. The words were polished, almost cheerful, but they changed the meaning of the moment before the facts had been checked. Monica heard seat belts click and phones shift in nearby hands. Some passengers looked relieved that the confrontation appeared to be ending. Others studied her as if standing up proved she had never belonged in Seat 1A. Please state that my boarding pass was not rescanned, Monica said. Grant gestured toward the forward door. You can make your complaint at the gate. That is not what I asked. Daniel remained near Alyssa, his eyes fixed on the scanner. Officer Miller, the device still shows a valid confirmation. Grant finally turned toward him. Claire manages this cabin. We are not here to debate her passenger list. Alyssa drew a careful breath. The passenger list also shows Ms. Hayes in Seat 1A. Claire looked sharply at her. The executive code may have been entered incorrectly. Monica reached beneath the seat for her leather bag. Then check the gate record. We have already spent enough time on this, Claire replied. Monica paused with one hand on the bag. The cabin air felt cool against her face, but warmth had gathered beneath her collar. She remembered her father returning home after overnight maintenance shifts, his hands smelling faintly of machine oil and metal. Noah Hayes had known aircraft systems better than supervisors who repeatedly passed him over for promotion. When Monica was 16, he told her that machines were often fairer than people because a machine responded to evidence. A loose connection was loose. A cracked seal was cracked. It did not change its diagnosis based on the person holding the wrench. Years later, after building an investment firm and acquiring Sterling Sky, Monica found his old steel wrench inside a wooden toolbox. She carried it today because this flight was meant to measure whether the airline valued evidence as much as he had. Grant stepped toward the open boarding door. "Let us go, ma'am." Monica lifted the bag slowly. The zipper caught against the seat frame, opening several inches. The small steel wrench slipped onto the carpet with a soft metallic sound. It rolled past Daniel's polished shoe, crossed the narrow aisle, and stopped beneath the cockpit door. Everyone looked down. Claire exhaled impatiently. "Please retrieve your property." Before Monica could move, the cockpit door opened. Captain Robert Ellis stepped into the cabin, adjusting the cuff of his uniform sleeve. His gaze traveled from the two officers to Monica standing beside the empty seat, then down to the worn wrench near his feet. He bent and picked it up. The moment he saw the engraving on the handle, his expression changed. Sterling Sky Maintenance. Noah Hayes. Robert turned the wrench over as though confirming a memory he had carried for decades. "Where did you get this?" he asked. Monica's voice softened. "It belonged to my father." Robert looked at her more carefully. He had been a 22-year-old trainee when Noah taught him how to detect a hydraulic leak by sound before any instrument registered it. He remembered Noah's patience, his precision, and the quiet disappointment that followed every promotion given to someone less qualified. Robert's eyes moved to Monica's face. Recognition arrived slowly, then all at once. "Monica Hayes," he said. Claire stiffened. Grant looked between them. Robert stepped closer and returned the wrench to Monica with both hands. "The board told me the new owner might travel anonymously," he said. The first-class cabin went completely silent. Claire's tablet lowered toward her side. Daniel looked again at the green confirmation light. Grant's certainty disappeared from his face. Robert turned toward them. "Why," he asked, "is the owner of Sterling Sky Airline standing in the aisle while her verified seat is empty?" For several seconds, no one answered Captain Robert Ellis. The soft hum of the ventilation system seemed louder than the passengers, the crew, and the two officers standing in the aisle. Claire Whitman looked down at her tablet as though the screen might offer a different version of what had just happened. Grant Miller shifted his weight and glanced toward the forward boarding door. Daniel Foster remained beside Alyssa Reed, staring at the green verification light that had been visible from the beginning. Monica held her father's wrench against her palm and looked at Robert. "They were asked to verify the ticket," she said. "They chose not to." Robert turned toward Claire. "Did the scanner show seat 1A as valid?" Claire pressed her lips together. "The reservation carried an unusual executive code." "That was not my question." Alyssa answered before Claire could reshape the facts. "Yes, Captain. The boarding pass was valid." A quiet murmur moved through first class. The passenger across the aisle lowered his phone slightly, but he did not stop recording. Robert looked at Grant. "Did you confirm the ticket before ordering her to leave?" Grant's voice became more formal. "We responded to a request from airline management concerning an unverified passenger." Monica met his eyes. The passenger was verified. The conclusion was not. Daniel looked down. Grant turned toward him. "Officer Foster, is that your understanding?" Daniel hesitated, then glanced at the body camera on Grant's uniform. "I saw the green confirmation when we entered the cabin." Grant's expression hardened. "You did not mention that clearly." "I said the pass appeared valid." "You said it once while we were handling a report." Monica listened without interrupting. Power often revealed itself after the mistake, when people began deciding whether to protect the truth or protect one another. Claire lifted the tablet. "Ms. Hayes, I sincerely apologize. I did not know who you were." Monica looked at the empty seat behind her. "You keep saying that as though my identity changed the ticket." Claire's face tightened. I was trying to protect the premium experience. For whom? The question landed softly, but Claire had no answer. Robert asked all 4 employees and officers to remain separated until their statements could be recorded. Monica raised one hand. The flight should not be delayed longer than necessary. We need to document this, Robert said. Yes, but the passengers did not create the problem. She turned to Alyssa. Can the scanner history be preserved? Yes. Can the gate record be preserved? Yes. Monica looked at Daniel. Your camera. It has been recording continuously. Then make sure the file remains exactly as recorded. Daniel nodded. Grant looked toward the passengers watching from their seats. This is becoming an internal airline matter. Monica faced him. It became a police matter when you ordered a verified passenger to leave without checking the evidence. He had no immediate reply. Claire attempted another apology, but Monica stopped her with a calm look. Do not apologize to the owner yet. First explain what you would have done if I were only a passenger. The cabin grew still again. Claire looked toward the scanner, then toward the phones recording her. Finally, she said, I would have removed you from the flight and reviewed the reservation afterward. Monica closed her fingers around the wrench. That is the problem. Robert instructed the gate supervisor to keep the jet bridge connected while statements were taken separately. Alyssa transferred the scanner log to the airline's protected compliance system. Daniel uploaded both body camera files to his department's evidence portal. Grant stepped toward the front galley, no longer certain that the badge on his chest could control the story. Monica returned to seat 1A and placed her father's wrench beside the window. As Claire walked past, Monica noticed a manual note still open on the tablet screen. The note had been entered before the police were called. It described Monica as a possible unauthorized upgrade, even though the system below it showed verified status. Monica looked toward Robert. Captain, preserve her tablet before anyone closes that record. Claire froze. Robert took the device without argument. On the screen, beneath the false warning, was the name of the executive who had approved the airline's complaint handling policy. Monica recognized it immediately. The confrontation in first class had not begun with Claire. Someone higher had taught her exactly how to make a valid passenger look like a problem. The name on Claire's tablet belonged to Marcus Bell, Sterling Sky's regional vice president for customer experience. Monica had reviewed his quarterly reports only 2 weeks earlier. According to his numbers, premium cabin complaints had fallen by 38% since he introduced a new service resolution policy. The board had praised him for reducing conflict. Now Monica understood what the number might truly represent. Problems had not disappeared. They had been renamed before anyone with authority could examine them. Robert Ellis kept the tablet powered on and handed it to the gate compliance supervisor waiting near the forward door. Preserve the screen, the access history, and every note connected to this reservation, he said. The supervisor nodded and sealed the device inside a clear evidence sleeve. Claire watched it leave her hands. That note was only a precaution, she said. Monica remained seated in 1A, her father's wrench resting beside the window. A precaution against what? Claire looked toward the watching passengers. Executive codes are sometimes used incorrectly. Did you contact reservations? No. Did you scan the pass again? No. Did you compare the name to the manifest? Claire's silence answered before her words did. No. Monica looked at Grant. And you ordered me off the aircraft based on her conclusion. Grant stood near the galley with his arms at his sides, his body camera still recording. We rely on airline staff to identify ticketing issues. Reliance does not remove your responsibility to verify. Daniel Foster glanced toward his partner, then spoke carefully. The scanner was visible when we entered. I should have insisted that we check it. Grant turned toward him. This is not the time. Monica heard the old instinct inside that sentence, protect the unit first, examine the truth later. It is exactly the time, she said. Daniel met her eyes. I saw the valid status. Officer Miller told me the airline had already made the determination. Robert asked the officers to continue their statements separately at the gate. Grant objected that the aircraft was not an interview room. Monica agreed. Then step onto the jet bridge before the door closes. Keep the passengers out of an investigation they did not ask to witness. The officers left through the forward boarding door while the jet bridge remained connected. A supervisor from airport police met them outside and confirmed that both body camera files had uploaded successfully. Inside the cabin, Alyssa transferred the passenger manifest, scanner log, and gate record to Sterling Sky's independent compliance portal. The data showed Monica's ticket had been valid from the moment she checked in. It also showed that Claire had opened the reservation 4 minutes before boarding ended, viewed the executive owner clearance, and manually added the warning that triggered police involvement. Monica read the time stamps without expression. Why did you add the note after seeing the verification? Claire looked down at the carpet. A passenger complained. Which passenger? Claire gestured faintly toward a white businessman seated in 2D. He stiffened as every nearby face turned toward him. I said the situation looked unusual, he replied. I did not tell her to call police. Monica looked back at Claire. What looked unusual? Claire's voice became quieter. He said you did not seem like the person assigned to 1A. And that matched what you expected. Claire did not answer. Robert's expression tightened. Who trained you to handle concerns this way? Claire looked toward the sealed tablet. Marcus Bell said premium service means resolving visual inconsistencies before departure. The phrase sounded polished enough for a leadership presentation and vague enough to conceal almost anything. Monica felt her father's wrench cool beneath her fingertips. Noah had spent years watching less qualified men receive opportunities because executives trusted appearances more than evidence. Decades later, the language had changed, but the judgment had not. Monica asked compliance counsel to issue an emergency legal hold on Bell's emails, training materials, complaint files, and access records. She did not call him. She did not give him time to prepare a cleaner explanation. The flight can depart once the door procedures are complete, she said. Robert studied her. Are you certain you want to remain aboard? Monica looked across the cabin at the passengers who had watched her become suspicious, then important, in less than 10 minutes. Yes. But Claire will not serve passengers on this flight. The remaining crew met required staffing levels, so Claire was reassigned to a non-working jump seat pending review. When the forward door finally closed, no one applauded. The engines began their low, steady rise beneath the floor. Monica fastened her seatbelt and placed the wrench beside the window again. Somewhere in Sterling Sky's headquarters, Marcus Bell still believed his reports had made the airline look better. He did not yet know that one manual note in seat 1A had opened every file he had tried to keep closed. The aircraft climbed above the morning clouds while Sterling Sky's compliance team began preserving records on the ground. Monica received only one encrypted message during the first hour of flight: legal hold confirmed, complaint archive secured. Executive access suspended. She read it once, then placed the phone face down beside her father's wrench. Outside the window, sunlight spread across the wing in a clean silver line. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere remained tense but controlled. Alyssa handled first-class service with careful professionalism, while Claire sat in the rear jump seat as a non-working employee under review. No one spoke to her unless necessary. Monica did not look back. She had no interest in turning the cabin into a stage for punishment. The evidence mattered more than humiliation. About 40 minutes after takeoff, Captain Robert Ellis called Monica through the cabin phone. Compliance found 27 complaints connected to Bell's policy, he said. 9 involved black passengers whose valid premium seats were challenged after boarding. Monica looked toward the quiet aisle. How many were sent to ownership review? Robert paused. None. Why? They were coded as service misunderstandings. Monica felt the phrase settle like cold metal. It was the same kind of language Noah had warned her about when she was young. Companies rarely admitted unfairness directly. They renamed it until no one responsible had to feel responsible. Who approved the coding? She asked. Marcus Bell and 2 regional managers. Do not contact them yet. Let outside counsel preserve the records first. Already in progress. Robert lowered his voice. There is something else. Bell sent a training memo instructing managers to resolve visual inconsistencies before departure. Monica closed her eyes for one brief second. Visual inconsistencies. That is the phrase. She looked down at the wrench. Her father had spent 31 years maintaining aircraft that carried executives across the country, yet the same company had repeatedly decided he did not look like management material. The language had changed, but the judgment had survived. When the plane landed in Denver, Sterling Sky investigators met the crew at the gate. The jet bridge remained connected while passengers exited normally. Monica waited until the cabin was nearly empty before entering a private conference room with outside counsel, the compliance director, and an independent investigator named Rebecca Lane. Grant Miller and Daniel Foster joined by secure video from the airport police office. Claire was interviewed separately. Alyssa provided the scanner log and her written statement. Rebecca placed a printed audit trail on the table. The system verified your seat before boarding, she said. Claire opened the reservation, saw the owner clearance, and added a manual concern note 4 minutes later. Monica looked at the time stamp. Did she explain why? She says a passenger told her you looked out of place. Grant shifted on the video screen. We were not given the full ticket information. Daniel looked toward him. The green verification was visible. Grant's jaw tightened. You mentioned it after we had already responded. I mentioned it before you ordered her to stand. The room fell quiet. Rebecca turned to Grant. Did you personally inspect the boarding pass? No. Did you ask the flight attendant to rescan it? No. Then what evidence supported your decision? Grant looked at the table in front of him. I trusted airline management. Monica's voice remained calm. Trust does not replace verification when someone's dignity is at stake. Claire's interview produced the larger truth. Marcus Bell had taught managers that premium service meant acting quickly when a passenger appeared inconsistent with the cabin profile. He never wrote race into the policy. He did not need to. He used words broad enough to preserve bias and clean enough to survive a board presentation. Rebecca slid 27 reopened files across the table. Monica did not touch them immediately. Each file represented a passenger who had been doubted, delayed, embarrassed, or removed while the company recorded the incident as a misunderstanding. Suspend Bell's access, she said. Remove Claire from duty pending the final findings. Preserve both officers' recordings and refer their conduct to their department. Contact every passenger in these files through independent counsel. Rebecca nodded. The board will expect a public statement today. Monica looked through the glass wall at travelers crossing the terminal, carrying ordinary bags toward ordinary flights. Then the statement will say what we know, what we do not know, and what we are doing next. She placed her father's wrench on top of the first complaint file. No excuses. No performance language. Just the truth. By noon, the first public statement appeared on Sterling Sky's website and across its airport monitors. It did not mention Monica's ownership as a defense, and it did not describe the incident as a misunderstanding. The airline confirmed that a verified passenger had been challenged without proper review, that records connected to similar complaints were being reopened, and that an independent investigation had begun. Monica insisted on one final sentence before approving the release: dignity should never depend on whether an employee recognizes a passenger's name. Within hours, former travelers began contacting the review team. Some remembered being asked to prove their seats twice while nearby passengers were never questioned. Others described being moved to the gate, spoken about as if they were absent, or advised to accept travel credits instead of filing formal complaints. The stories differed in detail, but the pattern was painfully consistent. At the Denver conference room, Rebecca Lane arranged the reopened cases by date. Alyssa sat beside her, still wearing her flight attendant uniform, answering questions about scanner procedures and cabin records. Daniel Foster remained on the secure video connection after Grant Miller's supervisor requested separate interviews. Why did you speak up only once? Rebecca asked him. Daniel looked toward the blank side of the screen where Grant's image had been. I thought my partner had more experience. I thought Claire knew something I did not. And when the evidence stayed green, I told myself it was not my decision. Monica watched him carefully. Silence becomes a decision when it allows an unsupported order to continue. Daniel nodded without defending himself. Yes, ma'am. She did not offer comfort, but she did not humiliate him either. Accountability, she believed, had to leave room for truth or people would spend all their energy hiding from it. Claire's second interview was more difficult. Away from the cabin and the watching passengers, her confidence had faded. She admitted that Marcus Bell rewarded managers who prevented complaints from reaching executive review. He praised quick resolutions, low incident totals, and quiet cabins. When a premium passenger questioned whether someone belonged, Claire had learned to treat the concern as useful information. "Did you ever ask why certain passengers were questioned more often?" Rebecca said. Claire stared at her folded hands. "I noticed it." "What did you do?" "Nothing." Monica felt no satisfaction in the answer. The room was cool, yet the metal wrench beneath her palm seemed warmer than before. Her father had once told her that unfair systems rarely survived because every person inside them was cruel. They survived because enough people noticed and decided that noticing was sufficient. Late that afternoon, the investigation team opened Bell's archived training folder. The material never used openly discriminatory language. Instead, it instructed employees to identify passengers who did not match expected premium profiles, resolve doubts before departure, and protect high-value customers from discomfort. One slide advised managers to trust experienced visual judgment when time was limited. Another warned that repeated verification could weaken authority. Rebecca read the lines twice. This was designed to discourage evidence. Monica looked through the conference room glass at aircraft moving across the runway under a pale winter sky. It was designed to make assumption look professional. Bell finally called the board, claiming the policy had been misunderstood. Monica refused to speak with him privately. His explanation would be heard only with counsel, investigators, and a complete record present. Before leaving the room, she gave 3 instructions. Every affected passenger would receive a personal review and appropriate restitution. Every premium cabin verification policy would be rewritten around documented evidence. Every employee, including executives, would be trained to interrupt unsupported assumptions rather than quietly pass them forward. Rebecca closed the final file. "That will change how the whole airline operates." Monica picked up Noah's wrench. "It has to," she said. "Otherwise all we learned was how important someone becomes after we discover who they are." 3 days later, Marcus Bell entered the board conference room carrying a leather portfolio and the expression of a man who still believed language could protect him. Monica sat at the far end of the table with Rebecca Lane, outside counsel, the compliance director, and 2 independent board members. Noah's wrench rested beside a stack of reopened complaint files. Bell took his seat and began before anyone invited him to speak. "The policy was created to reduce disruption and protect customer confidence," he said. "Any misuse occurred at the local level." Rebecca opened a folder. "The local managers used the exact language from your training materials." Bell adjusted his cuff. "Training language requires judgment." Monica looked at him. "Whose judgment?" "Experienced managers." "And what evidence were they required to review before questioning a passenger?" Bell hesitated. "Every situation is different." Rebecca placed the scanner records from seat 1A on the screen. "In this situation, the ticket was valid, the passenger manifest was correct, and the executive clearance was visible." Claire Whitman added a warning after reviewing all 3. Bell glanced toward the display. Claire made an error. Monica remained still. 27 complaints were recoded under your approval. 9 involved black passengers with valid premium reservations. Were those 27 separate errors? Bell leaned back. "The numbers do not prove discriminatory intent." "Intent is not the only thing under review," Rebecca said. "We are examining conduct, outcomes, and the systems that rewarded them." Bell looked toward the board members. "I delivered the lowest complaint rate in the region." Monica opened the first file. "You lowered the number by changing what the complaints were called." She opened another. "A woman questioned twice after showing a valid boarding pass." Another. "A father moved to the gate while his children remained seated." Another. A physician asked to prove an upgrade that had already been confirmed. Bell's confidence began to thin. Those cases lacked context. Monica placed her hand on the wrench. "The context was removed when your office changed the labels." Rebecca then displayed an email Bell had sent to regional managers 6 months earlier. It instructed them to avoid escalating sensitive premium cabin disputes unless there was clear evidence of employee misconduct. The same message warned that excessive reviews could damage confidence in frontline judgment. Bell read the words in silence. "You may doubt harder to report than discrimination was to commit," Monica said. He looked at her directly for the first time. "That is an unfair interpretation." "Then give us a fair one." Bell opened his portfolio but did not remove anything. The room waited. Finally, he said the policy had been written to satisfy demanding customers, reduce delays, and protect the airline's reputation. Monica heard no cruelty in his explanation, only the colder danger of a man who had converted human dignity into a performance metric. "You protected the appearance of order," she said, "by making certain passengers carry the cost." The board voted to terminate Bell's employment for manipulating complaint classifications, discouraging evidence-based review, and failing to disclose repeated patterns of unequal treatment. Claire remained suspended pending final disciplinary action. Airport police reassigned Grant Miller away from passenger response duties while its internal review continued. Daniel Foster received formal discipline, additional training, and a requirement to testify about what he had seen and failed to stop. Alyssa Reed was invited to help design the new verification program because she had followed the evidence even when her supervisor discouraged her. After the meeting, Bell paused beside Monica near the glass wall overlooking the runway. His voice was quieter. "You destroyed my career over one flight." Monica looked beyond him at a Sterling Sky aircraft turning toward the gate. "No," she said. "Your career was built on every complaint you taught people not to see." He left without answering. Rebecca gathered the files, but Monica remained by the window. She did not feel victorious. Justice had arrived through records, testimony, and consequences, yet none of it could return the moments already taken from the passengers who had been made to feel unwelcome. She closed her fingers around Noah's wrench and watched ground crews guide the aircraft safely into place. Repair, her father had taught her, began only after someone stopped arguing with the damage. 6 months after Marcus Bell left Sterling Sky, the new verification policy faced its first unannounced test on a morning flight from Atlanta to Seattle. Monica did not design the test herself. Rebecca Lane selected the route, the crew, and the passenger case so no one could prepare for her presence. Monica boarded quietly and took seat 1A wearing the same charcoal suit she had worn months earlier. Noah's wrench rested inside her bag. Across the aisle, an older black woman named Evelyn Carter settled into seat 2C after receiving a complimentary upgrade at the gate. She wore a soft gray cardigan and carried a small canvas tote filled with knitting supplies. A white businessman seated nearby watched her place the boarding pass in the seat pocket. Before departure, he leaned toward Grace Turner, the newly promoted cabin training supervisor, and said he believed Evelyn might be sitting in the wrong section. Grace did not look at Evelyn first. She looked at the passenger manifest. Then she checked the scanner record and confirmed the upgrade. Only after reviewing the evidence did she approach the seat. "Mrs. Carter, your upgrade is confirmed," Grace said warmly. "May I help place your tote beneath the seat?" Evelyn's shoulders relaxed. "Thank you." I was beginning to wonder whether there had been a mistake. "There was no mistake," Grace replied. "This is your seat." The businessman looked away. Grace did not embarrass him, but she did not allow his suspicion to become policy. Near the open aircraft door, Daniel Foster stood with an airport police supervisor as part of his required observation training. Grant Miller was no longer assigned to passenger response calls during the ongoing review. Daniel watched Grace complete every verification step before speaking to the passenger. Months earlier, he had seen the same green confirmation and allowed someone else's certainty to outweigh it. This time, no officer entered the aisle. No passenger was asked to stand. No announcement turned a private suspicion into public judgment. Monica remained silent. That was the purpose of the test. A fair system had to work when no owner revealed herself and no camera forced people to behave carefully. After the cabin door closed, Grace entered a brief report into the compliance system. She recorded that a concern had been raised, that the reservation had been verified, and that no action against the passenger was necessary. The report did not describe Evelyn as difficult, unusual, or inconsistent. It documented evidence, response, and outcome. During the flight, Evelyn removed a half-finished blue scarf from her tote. She told Grace she was traveling to meet her first granddaughter. Her husband had died the previous year, and this was her first trip alone in more than 4 decades. I almost stayed home, she admitted. Airports make me nervous now. Grace brought her tea and said, "Then we are glad you came." Monica looked through the window at sunlight spreading across the clouds. The moment was ordinary, almost too small to notice. That was what made it important. Justice was not always a public apology or a boardroom vote. Sometimes it was an older woman reaching her seat without having to defend her right to occupy it. After landing, Rebecca met Monica near the gate and asked whether the test had succeeded. Monica looked back through the glass as Evelyn walked toward the terminal, carrying the blue scarf and smiling at a message on her phone. "The procedure succeeded," Monica said. "Now we have to make sure it becomes instinct." Daniel approached before leaving with his supervisor. "Ms. Hayes, I saw what should have happened that day." Monica studied him. "Seeing it now does not erase your silence then." "I know. But what you do next will decide whether that silence taught you anything." Daniel nodded. Monica did not forgive him with words, and she did not refuse the possibility of change. She simply opened her bag, touched Noah's wrench, and watched another crew begin boarding. The airline was learning that dignity should not arrive after recognition. It should be waiting at the seat before the passenger ever sat down. 1 year after the flight that changed Sterling Sky, Monica Hayes returned to Seat 1A on a quiet morning departure from Atlanta. No announcement marked her arrival. No executive assistant walked beside her. She carried the same leather bag, wore the same charcoal suit, and placed Noah's wrench near the window where the rising sun could reach it. Around her, passengers settled into their seats while the cabin crew followed the new verification process without hesitation. A black mother received help lifting a suitcase into the overhead bin. An elderly man with a hearing aid was given extra time to understand the safety instructions. A college student in worn sneakers took his upgraded seat without anyone studying him twice. None of these moments looked dramatic. That was the point. Sterling Sky no longer waited for injustice to become visible before treating dignity as important. Claire Whitman had completed the investigation process and accepted responsibility for ignoring evidence. She did not return to premium cabin management. Instead, after months of training and supervised work, she joined a customer support team that handled complaints directly. Her first assignment was to speak with passengers whose experiences had been mislabeled under Marcus Bell's system. Some refused to forgive the airline. Monica respected that. Forgiveness could not be demanded from people who had paid the price for someone else's comfort. Grant Miller's department removed him permanently from passenger response duties after concluding that he had acted without sufficient verification. Daniel Foster remained with airport police under a corrective agreement that required him to train new officers on evidence-based intervention and the responsibility to challenge unsupported assumptions. He never described himself as brave. He spoke instead about the moment he saw the green confirmation light and chose silence. Alyssa Reed became part of Sterling Sky's national training team. Grace Turner helped build a review system that measured whether employees verified facts before taking action, not merely whether cabins remained quiet. The reopened complaints led to restitution, formal apologies, and policy changes across every airport Sterling Sky served. Yet Monica knew the deepest change could not be measured by reports. It lived in moments when no one powerful was watching. As the aircraft began to taxi, a young black boy across the aisle noticed the worn wrench near Monica's hand. "Is that for fixing airplanes?" he asked. Monica smiled. It belonged to someone who knew how. The boy looked toward the wing outside the window. "Did he build this one?" "No," Monica said softly. "But he helped make flying safer for many people." The boy nodded as if that answer was enough. Monica looked down at the scratched metal handle and remembered her father coming home after long overnight shifts, tired but careful, never allowing bitterness to become cruelty. He had taught her that strength was not proven by making others feel small. It was proven by refusing to become what had hurt you. The plane turned toward the runway. Sunlight spread across the cabin, touching every row without preference. Monica closed her hand around the wrench, then let it rest beside the glass. The problem had never been that people failed to recognize an owner. The problem was that they believed an ordinary passenger deserved less protection. Sterling Sky had finally learned that justice was not knowing who someone was before treating them well. Justice was treating them well before knowing anything at all. And as the aircraft lifted into the morning sky, one question remained for everyone who had watched the story unfold: when evidence and assumption stand in front of us at the same time, which one do we choose to believe?